This is an interesting selection to look at in terms of creating volume and space and depth. Now here we could say we're using one point perspective. You see how it's all kind of vanishing to one vanishing point on the horizon. And the rest of these, although there's some winding and you're being led through some nice movement to the back, there's minimal use of perspective. When you get down here, this one, you could say there's 2-point perspective. You see these going off in this direction, and this one helps lead us off in another direction. So possibly 2-point perspective here, but otherwise there's not a whole lot of use of perspective. Certainly the winding lanes coming through here draws your eyes in. Here has a different sense of light, and so it separates these spaces. It looks like there's some light shining in this area and leaving this in shadow, so that helps create a sense of a different space. And certainly all the texture, you see the soft billowy texture, and then the more leafy texture and the hard texture of the rocks, and the more flowing down here texture, and so that all separates out and helps create depth. Certainly diminishing size, you see the smallness of the people and of the buildings compared to the size of the road and the rocks in the foreground. So diminishing size is certainly helping, and you could see that in this one up here also. See how large this foreground and the bricks look, and then as they recede in the distance, everything gets quite a bit smaller. Decreasing detail is really used effectively. You see how the detail is in this foreground, and then it gradually, you see less and less detail here in the background, and things become a little blurry and there's less contrast. You see how little contrast and detail is in here, but there's a lot more contrast and detail in the foreground.